It's finally here. For those who care, the much anticipated Niche Zero grinder started shipping. But is it any good? I don't know, because I haven't even tested it yet. I would unbox it, but this is all the stuff that's in it, so why take it out of the box? This is the box. It looks like a box. This is the grinder. I got it, and I have to say I was really excited, but at the price point, you can tell that it's not really a big budget production model. It's very nice, and it's smooth, and it's shiny, but there's a bit of the finish that I think could use some work. First of all, ooh, the grind cup. It's very fine quality. It says niche on the bottom. So that's alright. I don't know if I'll ever use it. But the thing that's interesting is this just comes separate. It's just a little plate that the grind cup sits on. You just put it in there. It sits on there. Can't wiggle around. But it just comes off. It's not particular. It's not. You can spin it around. You can just kind of flip it off. It's not really attached. Maybe I'll like put some blue tack on there, tack it down. But it just seems weird. The other thing that I was kind of surprised about is it has these little feet. And I thought that there would be some sort of one feet. It's got the rubber. It's not going to move on the table. It's got little rubber parts on the bottom. But these things just spin. They're like a child's toy. You can just spin them all day long. And it's not... There's nothing wrong with it. It looks nice. It just feels cheaper than it is. And I know it's a Kickstarter, but the recommended price is supposed to be £500 for this thing, which they could figure that out for £500. Other than that, I haven't really tested it at all. I just got it out of the box, and that's the first impressions. It has a little hood. That's nice. It's got a magnet on it. The cord has a little cord recoil thing, which is another thing that I think just feels a bit cheap, because you just kind of pull it out, and then when you want to get it back in there, I've seen cord things where you pull it a little bit and then it winds itself back in, but this you just jam it in there. Just keep on jamming it in there. It's still nice to have, but like I say, it feels it doesn't feel as premium as the price point suggests. Oh no, that little thing's coming off. But maybe the finish in those areas is what they skimped on to make the actual grinding better. So I mean that'll come out. This is the manual. It comes with the manual. It comes with a little brush. That's nice. You know. Brush some things. Great. It comes with the manual. The manual is also kind of weird. It has important safeguards is a section that's 3 pages long, and there's 27 things. But some of them, I don't know if this is just the time we live in, or they're a little bit paranoid over at Niche. But even the first one, before using this machine, ensure that your electricity supply is the same shown on the label underneath. If you have any concerns, please contact your local electricity company. If it's got a UK plug on it, you plug it into the UK mains. I don't know, I don't think you should call the company, utility company, and say, what voltage are you giving me? It's, there's all sorts of weird stuff in there. Don't use it outdoors. I mean, that's alright. Avoid contact with moving parts. Some of them are oddly specific. Oh, this is an interesting one. Always disconnect the Niche Zero from the supply if it's left unattended. And before assembling, disassembling, cleaning, to unplug it, hold the plug and pull it out of the socket. Never pull it out by the power cord. Never. That to me means that every time you're not using it, you have to unplug it, which is kind of a weird thing, because I've never had to do that with a grinder. You just take it, you just leave it plugged in, and yeah, when you want to use it, you turn it on, and then you turn it off. But this has a little light. I think it's always on, but I haven't plugged it in yet. We'll find out. It is aesthetically pleasing. It's nice. The other thing is you can only put 50 grams in here according to the instructions, which I don't think is enough. If you use a cafetiere, you're supposed to, and it's like an 8-cup one, that one's a liter, you should use between like 50 and 60 grams of coffee, but this only fits 50. So if I want to do a cafetiere, I have a bigger one, a 12-cup one, I have to grind it twice. And I'm not sure if that's because the motor will overheat or something like that if you use it too long, because I've had grinders that are like that, but that'll find out. But that's why. It is designed nice, and it's small, and it's hypothetically quiet, we'll see. But, I mean, this is what it's replacing. Or not, we'll see. But as you can see, it's massive. It's much bigger, and it's heavy. But, you know, they'll both have their advantages and disadvantages, and we'll see how it all turns out. I'm sort of excited, and a little bit disappointed. But if it works good, that's all I really care about. So I made my first impressions video as soon as I got the grinder, and then a load of time passed because I figured out other people are going to make some sort of review video. But then I looked at it recently, and the only people who really made videos were people who were involved with the company, like maybe they got a free one, or maybe they're selling them. So I decided just to follow up with it and tell people what it's like to live with it day to day. For the disclosure part of this, I bought this off Indiegogo. I was an earlier backer, so I got it for £360 in Great British pounds. I think now it's 500. We'll get into that a little bit later. The thing about the Niche Zero specifically, and it's the reason why people buy it, the zero part, is it has no retention. Or they say it has no retention. It's pretty good. But for that, you have to use this cup. That's the price of admission. If you try and go without it, you'll end up just spraying coffee all over the counter. So what you need to do is, as far as workflow goes, is you get your coffee, you weigh it out, you pop it in the top, you let it grind, then you take the cup, put it in your portafilter, give it a little shake. I give it a little swirl with a paper clip, just to distribute it a bit better because it bunches. It has a really nice grind in that it doesn't clump or anything, but because of when you use the cup, it creates kind of like a ring around it. It says no retention. It's pretty good on retention. It's like, maybe I stopped weighing it. I used to weigh every single one, especially because I thought I was going to do the review, and it always gets within like 0.2 of a gram. So if you put in like 17 point, so I did 17.7, and then I got out 17.5. Sometimes you go over, sometimes you go under. It's kind of luck of the draw. The retention's generally pretty good, but what you do find is if you hit the machine or knock it, a little bit will come out onto that tray. And the second thing to mention, in the first part of it, I said, what if this thing just comes off, what's it for? I used it the first time and I immediately found it's good for this thing to come off because you take the grinds, throw them away, you put it back there. So I take it back. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. I apologize. Another reason why I thought the Niche is an interesting product compared to some of the other ones out there is that it does have two things. The universal dial, so it's not stepped, so you can position it perfectly wherever you want it. The action is really nice in that I have a Mazzer, which we'll get to, that the ring is really tough to move. You'll try and move it a little bit and it'll get away from you. But this is nice and smooth. It has a good smooth action. The range is pretty big because it goes all the way to basically where it stops. And you can unscrew it out to as coarse as you really want it. The lines on here may not be 100% accurate, you know. Is this filter drip really filter drip? Not for me, but I'm not really an expert on that. I can find a range that I want, no matter what. You just may need to know that you need to go a bit further, maybe a whole turn or whatever. It's really easy to clean. You just unscrew that top all the way out, take out the burr, and there's the chamber. You can brush it out. It comes with a brush, so that's really good. And then when you want to put it back in, you just screw it back in. You can, clean it, lube it up, but it doesn't really need it. Every once in a while you should probably do it. There is a peculiar thing about the design where it has this top ring and then a bottom ring, which is the one that has the dot on it. And because they're separate, I don't know why they couldn't be one piece, but because they're separate and the bottom ring can move independently, it's not that big of a deal. It will happen once or twice until you learn to only grab it by the shiny metal part and move with it. But that ring with the dot on it, which tells you how coarse or fine, it's just where your indicator is, can come out of alignment with the top ring. You can move it separately. So let's say, I'm on an espresso right now. You can move it, not the burrs, so they don't get any closer. You can move just that ring, so now all of a sudden the same grind size looks like it's a filter. When you clean it, there is a little mark on the side that says calibrate. You screw it all the way in until it can't screw in no more, and then you just position the dot on that calibrate line, and then that'll reset where it is. So you'll always have that as a datum point. Screw in it as much as you can. Don't turn it on at this point. They tell you in the instructions, do not, it'll break it and they won't replace it. Then you put that ring over to that calibrate dot, and then move it back to where you want it, and it's good to go. So it's just kind of a weird quirk. It's not really an issue that I found, but just ask the question, why? Why does it need to be that way? Maybe they'll fix it in the next iteration. I really like the look of it, and it's a nice size. So it looks great on the countertop. It blends in well with everything else. Doesn't take up too much space. It's very quiet too, which is really nice. It's off. Well, that brings me to the next point. It doesn't have an on-off switch, and I think I talked about this in the unboxing, which is just really weird. You have to unplug it every time you use it because there is a light on it. So when it's plugged in, the light will be on, so you know that it's on, and then the switch will work. But in order to switch it off, you have to unplug it. I have it set up so that with a smart plug, so that my espresso machine and the grinder both come on, half hour before I want to use it in the morning. So that'll heat up. This will be on when I want to use it. It's ready to go. And then when I turn the espresso machine off, this also turns off. It says to unplug it every single time. I just think that's a bit ridiculous. It's a little too much to ask. I also think that the cable is too short, because I plug it in behind that machine. It's only, this oven's with a distance apart, and that is it. That's as far as it can go, from over there to over here. I would like a little bit more. It works fine enough for my purposes. Now it's time to get on to its rival, which is the Mazzer Mini Type A, which I think is the one I have. It's the one with 2 buttons on the top. It's not the hoppered one. And this one's really great. It's just a different style for a different type of person. Like I said, this one has a hopper. It's got beans in it. It's always ready to go. So you just come in. I mean, the cable on this one is almost too long.
and it doesn't have the nice tidy away function like the niche does. It has an on and off button, which is very helpful. And then because of the timing function, you just plop your portafilter in it, press the button, walk away, not worry about it, then come back. I weigh it generally. And then if I want a little bit more, just top it up and I'm ready to go. And that's it. It's no fuss, extra quick. That's what it's good for, because it is like, it's an industrial one. It's made for a cafe where you're go, 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 go. What that means is it's very hard to clean out. Like I said, adjustment is a bit hard because that ring gets stiff. Like it has its perks. The other thing is it's a lot bigger and it looks a lot more industrial. So if you're into that, then that's great. But at the end of this review, that one got packed away and is back in the spare room, and the niche is still on the counter because it really is. It's a very good domestic, quiet, high quality grinder. Now the thing about that Mazzer is I bought that used for £260. The quality of the grind, I'd say between the two of them is equivalent. They both have Mazzer burrs, so this has Mazzer burrs in it, and so does the other one. So they both work really well, and they're both up to the job. The Mazzer you can get spare parts for. It has a long track record. It'll just last forever. With the niche, we don't know reliability. The company's very new. This may be their only product. They may not. They may go bust if they don't make enough money. And then that's it. If it breaks, you're out of luck. But I have high hopes for it because it is very high quality. It's hard to understand why more coffee companies haven't picked it up. I've had it for months now, and like I said, I seem to be the only one who's made a review. So it is a very good product. It's expensive compared to the Mazzer Mini, which you can get for half the price used on eBay. These aren't really available to get used yet because people are still using them. I mean, it's great. I really enjoy it, and it's the one that sits on my countertop day to day. But it does have some quirks which drive me a little bit nutty. So that's it. You decide what kind you'd like. I would like to test a Sette 720. I think that would be interesting. That's probably the most comparable competitor to this one. But that, because it has, but I don't have it. So maybe if I can get my hands on one, I'll make a video of those. I think that would be the most interesting one. But until that happens, I'm sticking with this one. I think it's a good value. I think I got it at a good value. I think £500 is steep. It's a steep price to pay, but you get the quality out of it. It is a luxury item for sure.